Hi everyone. Today I'm going to continue on with discussions of the recent Criterion releases coinciding with the Barnes & Noble Criterion half price sale for November 2022. So today I want to talk about The Power of the Dog, which came out I think about a week ago Tuesday. It's from 2021. It's a Netflix movie, so we have yet another Netflix movie coming into the Criterion collection. Directed by Jane Campion, and she won the Oscar last year for Best Director. She also wrote the screenplay based on a novel by Thomas Savage. This is a sort of modern Western, 1925. There's still cowboys, there's still cattle drives. It's set in Montana, but it's actually filmed in New Zealand. So instead of a spaghetti Western, I guess you could call this a Kiwi Western. And it involves two brothers. They're on a cattle drive. It's their 25th anniversary of their cattle driving. The brothers, Phil, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and George, played by Jesse Plemons. Phil is Cumberbatch's character, very sentimental. It's an anniversary. It means a lot to him. George is not sentimental. He is sort of the business end of the ranch, and Phil is sort of the overseer of the cowboys. But he gets right in there with all their activities, including castrating steers. Their parents still alive, but they're off in the big city. So there's a close bond that's between these two brothers, but it seems to be breaking apart. And Phil waxing sentimental about a cowhand from their youth who taught the two of them everything they know about hunting and cattle, and which means a lot to Phil. George is not quite as sentimental about these kind of memories. So we have a really Phil being a very hyper masculine cowboy, George being a sensitive sort. And when on the drive, they stop at a restaurant, and eventually George marries Rose, who runs the restaurant, played by Kirsten Dunst. He marries her and takes her back to the ranch mansion with her teen son, who is called by Phil and is very, as in the terminology of the day, a Nancy boy, and which offends Phil's masculinity. But he doesn't want the sister-in-law either, and he torments her. And she quickly, in the scope of the movie, perhaps a little too quickly capitulates to the kind of meanness of Phil, this overarching masculinity, and the knowledge that she's not wanted by him. So she sort of leaves the picture. Jesse Plemons, her husband, sort of leaves the picture as well. Maybe one of the faults of the movie is they're rather thinly drawn, these two characters. So now we switch to the teen son, and to Phil, and the gears shift. I love it in movies when gears shift. This is an abrupt shift. And you got to pay close attention to this movie, because Jane Campion does not underline what happens and the clue to the mystery of the movie. There seems to be a seduction going on, but we wonder, well, who is actually doing the seducing? And there's a whole ominous mood from the opening shots and all through the movie. We know that something's going to happen, something bad's going to happen. There's no doubt of that, and that's further amplified by Johnny Greenwood's score, which is very, very evocative, very good. And it's the schematic nature of the narrative is very similar to Jane Campion's The Piano, where we also have a brutish man, a sensitive man, and a woman caught in the middle. And how do women survive in this in the pathology of patriarchy? masculinity, male rage, and the suppression of the feminine, both in the suppression of Rose, but also the suppression, the feminine or the suppression of feminine feelings in men. That certainly does contribute to this pathology. The performances are just uniformly terrific. Benedict Cumberbatch, as we learned in the supplements, did quite a bit of research. He lived on a ranch in Montana for many months. He comes up with an accent, American Western accent, that sometimes sounds like he watched a lot of Lee Marvin movies, or perhaps Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood. But he is absolutely superb in this role, and he was nominated for Best Actor. And it would seem that he is in control of this growing relationship between he and the teenage Nancy boy son, who comes across as he's very, very thin. He's big eyes. He's got an ashen pallor. He looks vampirish. And so here, this ominous, this creepiness of the tone of the film, which Campion is just expert at doing. She's done this before in movies. She knows how to do it. Lends itself to a kind of gothic, a gothic atmosphere of damaged men, and to what lengths will these damaged men go? Now, the novel, the movie was based on a novel by Thomas Savage, and I wanted to read the novel, but I didn't get a chance to get to it. It's not an easily accessible novel, but I think it is available on Kindle. It's a novel from 1969, and I had never heard of the author or the novel. But this novel and Thomas Savage in general got great reviews, but nobody bought his books. Now, he was I guess he was a closeted gay, and he had gay themes intimated in his books, and perhaps that's the reason 1969. But there is from reading about the novel, there is a backstory to Rose and her son, involving what happened to the husband. That's who has died. And that's totally excised from the movie, from Jane Campion's screenplay. So we don't get that backstory, and there is a thinness, I think, not just to the Kirsten Dunst character and Jesse Plemons, but also to the surrounding players. And Campion is a director that focuses in on the main relationships. But I understand that it's otherwise pretty faithful to the novel. And we do get a fold-out, and it's got some nice artwork. This is Jesse Plemons, and we get Kirsten Dunst, and we get her son in the movie, played by Cody Smith McPhee, and a very now he was in the adaptation of The Road, the Cormac McCarthy novel with Viggo Mortensen, which I've never seen, so I'm not sure I ever saw him before, but he has a very distinctive acting style here. Very quiet. He is one of the most memorable characters I think you're going to find in Jane Campion's cinema. There's and Amy Taubin has an essay, What Kind of Man? And it's very good. It's very much devoted to the idea of Jane Campion's cinema being feminist. She's a very ideological kind of essay. I'm not an ist kind of person, so I go for performance and characters that are unique unto themselves. But certainly the idea of the patriarchy and the idea of how women have to find their way through this labyrinth of male Male toxicity is certainly a theme, no doubt a theme through all of Jane Campion's movies, though I've not seen all of them, I shouldn't say that. And then we get the Netflix supplements. There's the making of, there's a, there's one of these interviews where they get all the women who worked on, not all the women, but some of the women, Kirsten Dunst and the cinematographer, and Jane Campion, one of the producers, being interviewed by Tamara Jenkins, a novelist. There's some good information there. A lot of it is devoted to the participants congratulating each other how brilliant they are. I did like the cinematography in here. I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's digital. It wasn't filmed on 35 millimeter. But it catches the landscape, the beauty of the landscape. The interiors are very dark, so Dolby Vision really comes in handy in these dark interiors to catch all the detail, which it does. I would quibble with a couple of deliberately shaky handheld shots, which I had hoped had left the toolbox of director of photographies, but it pops up here. And then but now we have the drone, the soaring drone shot, which is another application I hope will soon run its course. But otherwise, the cinematography here is beautiful. The 4K restoration, beautiful. There is a audio supplement with Johnny Greenwood, Jane Campion discussing with Johnny Greenwood his score, which is very useful. He's a very funny guy. He really makes Jane Campion crack up in this. I think it's about maybe 15 minutes. And then my favorite supplement is I think unique to this Criterion release, which is an interview with Annie Proulx. Now, she was the writer of Brokeback Mountain, the story that was made into the film. And she got to know Thomas Savage. In fact, when she wrote her story, Brokeback Mountain appeared in New Yorker magazine, and Thomas Savage, still alive, he wrote to her and said, you know, this has a lot of similarity to this novel I wrote, Power of the Dog, and she got to meet him, and he had never achieved the kind of success that most critics thought he should have received. So I'm always glad when the novelist gets this kind of attention, because so much of the movies that we watch, that the novelist is sort of put aside. Not that Jane Campion does that, but the story is his. You know, she's giving the visual adaptation of the story, and I think she does a remarkable job. So another 4K that looks absolutely beautiful. There's two 4Ks by Jane Campion, and the other one I highly recommend as well, The Piano. And so I'm going to try to get to Malcolm X. I'm not sure. This came out a couple days ago. It's a 3-hour-plus movie. I don't have anything to do tomorrow, this is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving, anybody who's watching today. I am going to get to this tomorrow, and hopefully, maybe by Sunday, as I say, the sale ends on Monday, and I'll get to this most recent Criterion release. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.